Hello everyone and welcome to IScience Radio's first show of the year. I'm Ollie.
And I'm Tiernan. We are the radio branch of Imperial College's science magazine, IScience. We bring you the hottest science news and awesome stories from all around the globe.
Our theme today, as you might have guessed from our intro music, is space. We've got loads of great stuff coming up for you.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be talking about how science is seen in popular science fiction films and how space junk is cluttering up our skies.
And we'll also have some banging space-themed bops.
Amazing. That's all coming up here on IScience Radio.
But her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go. But her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a sad thing for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools as they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. And the best-selling show is their life on Mars. It's on America's tortured brow that Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow. And now the workers have struck for fame, 'cause Lennon's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds, to my mother, my dog and clowns. But the film is a sad thing for, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again, as I ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is their life on Mars?
That was David Bowie's classic. So now we have Louisa in the studio with us, and she's going to be sharing some science news.
Yes, hello. So we got something very important starting today, the COP29, which stands for Conference of the Parties. It is being held in Baku, Azerbaijan this year, and one of the big goals is to get more money to poorer countries to help them cope with the impacts of climate change.
I never knew that was what COP stood for. That's interesting. Now, I've been hearing rumblings that there's some controversy around it being held in Azerbaijan.
Yes, exactly. Well, some people think Azerbaijan is not a very good host country for this kind of conference. They are expanding their gas production, so investing in fossil fuels, and they have a poor human rights record, so where political opposition is not tolerated.
Not ideal.
Another problem is that a lot of leaders of big economies and also carbon emitters are not attending. So this includes US President Joe Biden, China's leader Xi Jinping, and France's President Emmanuel Macron. So some people say that more progress will actually be made next year at COP30.
That's interesting. So a lot of basically the key players aren't showing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know why they're not going to be there? I'm assuming that Joe Biden is related to the transfer of power.
Well, there's just, I don't know, there's lots of different reasons.
Yeah, probably not always a priority. It's also because it happens every year. So I suppose they don't see the need to go to everyone. What else is new?
Well, on a more positive note, for the first time, DNA from people who died during the volcanic eruption in Pompeii was analyzed. And this new genetic data contradicts some of the old assumptions that scientists held about these victims.
That's really cool. So what kind of assumptions is it getting rid of?
Well, the very famous example is of a mother holding her child, was what people believed, because this person had like a gold bracelet and stuff. But now, through the testing, we know that the adult was actually a male and the child he was holding was not actually related to him. And this is just one of the examples.
No way. That's crazy. So we just assumed it was mother and child. But
yeah. They just had to go off of things that they could physically see. But now, with the bone fragments that they could analyze, they have more info, and hopefully we'll find out way more about them now.
Wow, that's cool. So anything else you want to tell us about?
Well, I have one more interesting thing, more techie this time. AI could help train robots to be more efficient or effective in their learning.
Feels a bit scary.
Well, do you know these little like four-legged kind of dog-looking robots?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, usually they're trained by humans, but researchers at MIT have now developed a virtual platform that mimics real-life obstacles. So essentially it's a virtual world that changes very rapidly to train the dogs.
So does it make a difference to train the dogs like that? Why does that help?
They've actually realized that even though these robots could not actually see the real world while they were being trained, they were able to perform tasks like chasing real-life balls or climbing an object 88% of the time. When they were trained by humans, they could only succeed 15% of the time.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference.
Yeah, so it seems like it's much, much better when it's this virtual environment that's created.
Yeah. So these images that they use just are very, very, like, they change very rapidly in these training sessions, have different lightings, different weather, different surroundings. So it's just very efficient training. Okay, well, I suppose it's good if it's training them better, but it feels a bit dystopian. I don't know. I get the feeling, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Louisa. We're going to be playing some more space-themed music. Coming up, we have Rocket Man by Elton John, one of my favourite songs of all time.
She packed my bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then. I miss the earth so much, I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a timeless flight. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out here fact is cold as hell, and there's no one there to raise them if you did. And all the science I don't understand, it's just my job 5 days a week. A rocket man, a rocket man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out here alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man, burning out his fuse out here alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long
So that was Elton John's Rocket Man. I'm joined in the studio by a very special guest, Kanta Dihal, who is one of the lecturers in science communication here at Imperial College. And she's also an expert in all things sort of AI, science fiction, and how we sort of present science in science fiction. Was that right?
Yes, that's right.
So I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, what's your favourite sci-fi film?
That's a really hard one because there's lots that I am a big fan of. Interstellar is high up there.
And we're talking about a little bit about Interstellar later.
Brilliant. But actually, particularly with my AI hat on, when people ask for recommendations, I tend to recommend children's movies because there's so much more interesting stuff about AI in films like Big Hero 6, like WALL-E, than there is in the most popularly cited ones, I think.
Oh yeah, so you think that the kids' movies get it right more often than the sort of the more adult sci-fi films?
Yeah, I think so. I think kids' movies are less sort of harping on the same story of, you know, robots with 2 arms and 2 legs and a gun that are going to kill us all.
Yeah, so more scope for sort of imagination and stuff like that as well. And I suppose because it's less geared towards sort of, you know, classic dystopian ideals because you don't want to scare kids, so maybe you can have more fun with that, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. And so you get the hopeful stories as well as the negative ones. But even when there's negative stories, I mean, WALL-E is pretty sad.
Yeah.
But it's done in a very different way then.
Absolutely. There's always that sort of positive, like, sort of positive spin on it. And so as to not make it too doom and gloomy, I suppose.
I feel like there's also an education aspect to it. Like the idea if it's a kids movie, then you probably want to try and do your best or do justice to trying to be as truthful to the source material. You kind of want to try and sort of educate a little bit more as well, do you think?
For some children's movies, yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think definitely Big Hero 6 has a strong undertone of trying to get children interested in studying science and technology. So yeah, there's definitely that too. The idea of just being able to take action in the future as a kid. Yeah.
I've not actually seen Big Hero 6, but I have heard very good things.
Oh my goodness, you'll have to watch it. It's really good.
So what would you say are some of your like pet peeves about depictions of science in popular culture and popular media?
One pet peeve, I think, is telling the same story over and over, just in different shapes. So you get that a lot in AI. What you get a lot in sci-fi that uses physics is hand-wavy stuff where things get sort of not explained. They just use the term quantum, and that serves in itself as an explanation.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, where you look at the history of science fiction, that hand-waving has always been a thing. Before quantum babble, there was atomic, and before that, in the 19th century, there was electricity, and they would just say electricity, and that's the end of it. And so actually Interstellar is a really interesting sort of Interstellar breaks away from that mold quite interestingly.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about a little bit later about the sort of the science that was used to support Interstellar in the sort of development process, and also how it then actually influenced science later on, because the science was so good. What would you say is do you think Interstellar is sort of the gold standard, would you say, of science representation in popular media? Would you say there are any other examples you can think of that are really like get things right?
Interstellar has certainly set a standard that I think so far people have been trying hard to follow. It has given a very different twist on how science and Hollywood work together, and I think it has executed that really well, because there have been other attempts sort of at the same time, collaborations with various universities for various films. Not all of them worked out as well as in terms of also actually making a good film.
Have you ever been asked to be a consultant on any kind of media for science things, for AI and stuff?
Yes, I have. I'm afraid I can't talk about that on the radio currently.
Top secret. Is it something is it like an ongoing project?
This is ongoing, yeah.
That's very exciting. And because I know I was reading I remember when Avatar 2 came out, and I saw in the cast that they had like a science consultant and specifically like a
a marine biologist.
Yeah, marine biologists, and they also sort of like what's it called when it's like a space zoologist kind of thing,
like an astrozoologist.
Yeah, something like astrobiologist. And I was like, that seems like a really cool job.
Wow.
Your job would be basically sitting down and designing what these creatures look like to try and make them feel a bit more sciencey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Jurassic Park has also held up quite well in that regard. Like, it was using quite complex scientific ideas of the time, and then they had to sort of hand wave the fact that that's the later films had their dinosaurs still looking like the 1990s idea of what dinosaurs looked like, because the science had moved on.
Yes.
Yeah. In the new one, they had like they sort of tried to explain it away, didn't they, by saying that because of the DNA that they interspliced with the dinosaur DNA is why they didn't have feathers or something like that. Because obviously
you can always explain it away by saying, oh well, it's different in this world. It's we used a different type of gene editing sequence and sort of explain it away that way.
But also, and they were also saying, well, we actually genetically engineered the dinosaurs to match the public's expectation of what dinosaurs look like. And I thought, that's actually a genius line, because that is probably exactly what would happen, is that they would engineer things that people want rather than what is historically accurate.
Well, thank you so much, Kanta, for coming in to speak to us. It's been really interesting. Can't wait till you can come back and tell us a little bit about whatever it is you've been working on, the top secret project. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insights into how science is displayed in the media. Our next song that we have got is going to be a little bit of a tee up for our Interstellar segment. It is Muse's Supermassive Black Hole. So that was Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. Have you seen Muse live?
I have never seen Muse live, but I've always wanted
I feel
to.
like I thought everyone except me had seen Muse live, but I'm glad that you haven't either.
You're not the only one, no.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Interstellar now. Tin, you haven't seen it, have you?
No, I've actually never seen Interstellar. I saw that they were coming out with the 10-year anniversary with the 70mm film. I think it was last month, but I wasn't able to get a seat. It had sold out within like days of it coming out, and I had only found out a couple of days afterwards, and so I lost my chance.
Yeah, so it's 10 years old this year. It came out in 2014. It's obviously Christopher Nolan's one of his many amazing films, but it's his sort of sci-fi epic. I mean, a lot of his films are sci-fi, most of them, and most of them deal with themes of time travel as well. Yeah. But Interstellar is often held up as one of the best examples of accurate scientific depiction in the media. So a little bit about the premise of the film. I'll try not to spoil it, but it is 10 years old, TNN, so I don't know what you've been doing with your time.
I'm surprised that I haven't had it spoiled, and it's been 10 years. So so far I've done well, but I'll hold my hands up.
To be fair, I think I'll keep a relatively spoiler-free thing. Basically, the premise of the film is that Earth's climate has been sort of destroyed. They're running out of oxygen, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And so they're sending a space mission out to try and find habitable planets, and the way they're going to do that is they're going to travel through a wormhole in our solar system and go like 10 billion light years away to this giant black hole. I think it's called Gargantua, and there's some planets orbiting that which we think might be hospitable. And so the science in it is really, really good. Mainly because it was the film as a consultant had a guy called Kip Thorne involved. Have you heard of him?
I've never heard of Kip Thorne.
Cantor, I'm assuming you've heard of Kip Thorne.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so a very prominent astrophysicist, or theoretical physicist.
Yeah, and he actually won the Nobel Prize in 2017 for his work on gravitational waves produced by black holes. So he is about as good of an expert when it comes to black holes, relativity, and time dilation as you could hope for.
They did not skimp. They decided to go straight for the specialist.
And he actually was an executive producer on the film, because I think there's something about him having like one of the original concepts for the story as well. So, and he's laid down basically, when he sat down with Christopher Nolan to make the film, he had a couple of rules. You can't break the laws of physics, especially you can't go faster than the speed of light. And that any of the sort of fantastical elements of the film would stem from scientific theory as opposed from just the imagination of some writers. Jonah Nolan, who's Christopher Nolan's brother, who wrote the script, also he attended classes at Caltech to learn the physics. So it came from a place of really wanting to understand the physics and really trying to be as accurate as possible. Cantor, what do you think of coming from a physics background, what do you think of the physics in Interstellar?
Yeah, so the film came out in 2014, which is when I started my PhD on the communication of quantum physics. And so I remember...
That's almost perfect for
it. And so one of my years doing my PhD at Oxford, they had invited one of the leaders of the scientific team behind it to come and speak to the physics faculty. And it was him who really opened my eyes to just the extent of the physics research that had gone into it. Like, this film has led to a barrage of scientific papers just coming out of the research that was done in order to accurately depict the black hole. So it's the black hole in particular where original research was done for this film.
Yeah, so I think I read that, to date 3 peer-reviewed papers have been released as a result of the film. And that basically comes from the depictions of this black hole. Kip Thorne worked with the CGI team, the VFX team behind it, and they started from Einstein's equations on general relativity and his theories about gravity, and they built the model from that. There are some of the frames, literally individual frames, took 100 hours to render. Really? And I think the whole sequence, the image of it, takes 800 terabytes of data.
Yeah, so he was talking about those frames in particular. So this is one of the scenes where you see essentially through the cockpit windows what's going on outside. And they had to, basically calculate what light does when you are that close to an extremely strong source of gravity, in order that you could accurately represent what the astronauts would be seeing through their window. And so I think that's just really telling for how accurate they wanted it to be, because how many people watching the film are going to even realize or know or understand or care? And yet it was so important to this core group to get that right.
Yeah, and I think it's really set a gold standard, like we were saying, for how science is how the science can influence the story. And what can you tell me a little bit about how the black hole is shown in the film? Like, for anyone who's seen it, you'll know the image we're talking about, and how that changed people's views. It's to do with the gravitational rings, isn't it?
Yes. When you have a black hole, it's an extremely strong source of gravity. It sucks everything in that comes near enough, including light. So if gravity is strong enough, it can start pulling on light. And so this means that you get an effect a bit like when you pull the plug out of your sink and you get you get the water spinning in a disc that gets smaller and smaller and smaller and turns into a little whirlpool at the end. Now you get that disc, but because the gravity is so strong, it actually warps the light around in that disc. And that means, very long explanation short, that what you see as a disc, you don't see it as a disc. You see it as a disc that's half folded up.
Oh, so that explains why it's sort of almost like a semicircle. Kind of,
yes.
Whenever you see it, it's sort of like a little bit folded, like okay. Right,
so when you look straight at it, you see a line, a glowing line. That's the front of the disc, and you also see the back of the disc because it's folded up towards you.
That's so cool. So Interstellar is a perfect example of how the science doesn't have to get in the way of telling a good story, and actually, when done really well, the creative process can actually influence science. Thank you so much for your insights there, Kanta. We are going to now have another song. So we're going to have... I didn't realise this was a Doctor and the Medic song. I was completely wrong. I thought it was an ELO song. So
I love this song. I think this is so fantastic.
This next song is Spirit in the Sky.
That was great.
Going on up to the spirit
So that was Spirit in the Sky by Doctor and the Medics. We are at the halfway point of our show. So we are the iScience Radio team. I'm Ollie.
I'm Tiernan.
And yeah, this is the iScience Radio show. Coming up ahead, we've got Tiernan talking about space debris. And we're also going to have a little bit of a science space game later on.
Fantastic.
So, we've talked a lot about space and about how things are depicted in the media. We're now going to be turning a bit more to real life. And we're going to be looking at some space stuff about space debris.
Yes, exactly. So today I'm going to chat a little bit about the idea of space junk, or as it's more commonly known or formally known as space debris.
Sounds like a much fancier way of putting it. Space debris than what it actually is,
way
right?
Fancier, yeah. So basically, space debris is anything that we've sent on a one-way trip into space, or anything that doesn't have a determined purpose anymore whilst it's up there. So it can range from anything from a non-working satellite to jettisoned rocket parts, equipment, or even spacecraft. And it is becoming an ever more pressing issue for the world's space agencies and the idea of space travel.
And why is it such a big problem? What's the issue exactly?
Well, if you think about it, space debris as these massive chunks orbit hundreds of kilometers above the Earth, and they circle around the Earth at speeds of about 25,000 kilometers an hour in low Earth orbit.
That is fast.
Yes, it is super speedy. And to maybe visualize that a bit better, imagine a bullet that's shot from a gun. A bullet travels at about 3,000 kilometers an hour. So this debris is over 7 times as quick as a bullet. And it's not just the size of a bullet. No, this debris can range in sizes from less than a millimeter to well over 10 centimeters. So imagine, if you will, something, for example, like a solid metal mug that is traveling at 7 times the speed of a bullet, and it hits something on its way out of the atmosphere. Now, that could cause some major damage to any sort of space station or spacecraft.
Yeah, that's not going to end well, is it? It's a bit like the old bowling ball in the back seat.
Yes, exactly. Very much so.
So what are we doing to try and fix this?
Well, last week it was reported that the European Space Agency, or the ESA, have entered into talks with Elon Musk's SpaceX company to join what's called the Zero Debris Charter, and it's planning to stop any new orbital debris from being created by 2030. Now, there's 22 members currently of the European Space Agency, and they've been seeking new members to join since it was announced basically in 2023. Now, the Director General, Joseph Aschbacher, has said that more than 100 countries and organizations have so far joined the agreement. And this agreement is going to be super important as other organizations and nations are also starting to launch their own large satellite collections. So you might have heard, for example, Ollie, SpaceX have came out with their large-scale Wi-Fi network.
Starlink.
Starlink
right?
Wi-Fi network. Yeah, exactly. So there not only is SpaceX creating a lot of satellites in lower orbit, China is building up a mega constellation of its own, and it's called Thousand Sails, in order to compete with it. Okay. And so there's a lot of satellites being launched into space at the moment.
So surely there should be some kind of restriction on the amount of things we can. Surely there's only a finite amount of space, right?
I mean, that's a very good point. You would hope that would be the point, but there is actually no international laws on space debris at the minute. There is currently no legislation or laws that stop any specific country or nation to creating space debris in the pursuit of their space agency programs. And this, in recent years, countries have begun to create plans and national rules for fighting the problem. And a big one of that is this charter that was proposed by the ESA. So,
I mean, that seems great. But what are they planning to do? How are they going to tackle this?
Well as the charter, I'm very glad that you asked. We can limit the amount of satellites that we launch, but that doesn't solve the problems that space. It doesn't solve the problems of just reducing it. We still have the debris that's up there. That's why in the last week we've actually had some really exciting news from Japan, and they've launched a wooden satellite.
A wooden satellite.
Yeah. It's the world's first wooden satellite.
That's
has been
crazy.
launched into space. Kyoto University has developed a biodegradable form of satellite, and it was launched last Tuesday. It was actually launched on a SpaceX mission to the International Space Station, and it's sent there to basically go through testing before it gets released into Earth's orbit.
So how did they make the satellite then?
So, Lignosat, that's the name of this satellite, is made of honoki. It's a kind of magnolia tree that's native to Japan. It is worth mentioning that Kyoto University did run this program in conjunction with a logging company.
Nice.
So, in order to promote the use of basically reusable materials for space travel. And it was created using a traditional Japanese technique without screws or glue.
You might not have the answer to this, but you said it was biodegradable. How is it biodegrading if it's in space? Surely there's no bacteria to break it down.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. So you are correct. It doesn't degrade whilst it's in space. Wood is a lot more durable whenever it's in space because it doesn't have water to make it rot and oxygen to make it rot, and it doesn't rot like normal wood would.
Normal wood.
Normal
Nice.
wood. But you are right. The impact of the satellite, it is biodegradable because as it begins to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, the temperatures that it get up to will eventually reduce the satellite to ash, and that will reduce the overall pollution and the metal components that are floating around in low Earth orbit.
That makes so much sense. Well, I look forward. When are we going to find out if this has worked?
Well, the satellite is going to stay in orbit for approximately 6 months once it's been deployed, and afterwards it'll burn up in the atmosphere and hopefully leave nothing but dust. And by that point, we'll have enough information, hopefully, to make us rethink what kind of materials that we use in space research and the things that we send into space.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you, Tin. I look forward to hearing whether or not we decide to, make wood the future of
Rockets
space.
from wood. Yeah. Let's go.
Our next song is a bit of a throwback. It's a classic. It's Frank Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon."
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, and let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. With song, let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
And that was Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. Fantastic song. Oh, I love a bit of
It's
Frank.
brilliant.
Me and Tinan were actually dancing in the studio. You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
see it, but it was great.
It was fantastic. We have someone joining us in the studio right now. We have wonderful Sophie.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to
Thank you very much.
into the studio. Now, I believe that you have some sort of quiz,
I've got a little game for you guys.
Testing our space
little
knowledge,
quiz.
which is
very
potentially
stressed.
limited.
How is your space knowledge? That's the
Oh,
question.
it's about as vast as space is, and about as empty as well.
As empty as space itself. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah. So I've got a space quiz for you guys. You first, though, are going to need some buzzers. So we don't have any digital ones. So Ollie, what's your buzzer going to be? What's your noise?
We're doing this Family Feud style.
I'm gonna go for a space duck and go wah. That's gonna be my buzzer.
Okay, I love
That's
that.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
I'm
Tinan?
gonna go for a faster than light kind of new.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so basically, I'm going to read out a question and you have to buzz to answer. So you have to do your space duck or
Okay.
whatever that was, lightning thing.
Yeah.
So the first one to buzz gets to answer first. If you get it right, point's yours. If you get it wrong, it is going to go to the other person and they get to have a go at answering.
Okay.
Do they get a little
Hopefully-
bit more time to think about it if you don't get it right in the first go?
No, you just have to go for it.
Just go for it.
No, I think
Awesome.
you
I love
pretty
that.
much just have to go for it. Sorry, guys.
No hesitation.
Yeah, no hesitations. Minus 10 points. Okay, so, and also anyone listening at home, feel very free to join in, send across your answers on the chat on YouTube. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
I'm good
Yeah?
to go.
Okay. What does the gas cloud in the middle of the Milky Way smell like?
Quack.
Okay, Ollie, you got that first.
Does it smell like farts, like methane?
That is such a good guess, but no. No, it's a good idea though.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I'm gonna go something very, very like rogue, and I'm gonna say something like beef or like meat.
You know what? I'd actually say you're a bit closer.
No, what?
Yeah. So the answer, I'm wondering if now you're actually not going to get any of these right, but
It's highly likely.
that doesn't matter. That's fine. The answer is rum. It smells like rum. So at the center of the
How is
Milky
that
Way.
close to? Sorry, how is that close to roast beef?
You know, it's the old
No, I
adage,
think it's just like it's something you can ingest. Whereas like
Yeah, to be fair,
methane.
yeah.
yeah, the Milky Way is to rum is to what beef is to whatever it was that you said.
I said farts on the radio. But yeah, anyway, carry
Yeah,
on.
so at the centre of the Milky Way, there is a big cloud of gas in which there's the compound ethyl formate. And that is responsible for the smell of rum and also partially responsible for the flavour of raspberries. But apparently there are also a ton of toxins in this cloud, so if you ever find yourself there, don't go and sniff it because I think it will kill you.
Yes, okay. That's so
yeah.
it might smell like rum, but it won't get you drunk.
No, I think it will
Might get you dead.
take you to the next place.
That's fair.
Okay, so
I
0-0.
guess neither of us got a point there. Okay,
I am
that's
a
fine.
little bit worried neither of you are going to get any points, but that is completely fine. So question 2. What unique weather phenomenon happens on Neptune?
Nyum.
Ooh.
Does it rain diamonds?
See, I was gonna say that, but I thought it rained diamonds on Venus. I don't know why.
I think it also rains diamond. Oh, it's also on another planet, but I can't remember. It might be
it's
Venus.
just raining
it might
diamonds
be.
everywhere.
Yeah, just everywhere bar Earth.
Yeah.
Honestly, I swear. Okay,
So
right. Well, there
well
we go.
done, well
Thank you
done.
very much.
Okay,
know
so
my
it's
diamonds.
actually just a hypothesis. Like
Oh,
they don't
okay.
actually for sure know that this happens, but they think so. But basically, temperature and pressure conditions are so extreme on Neptune that carbon atoms in methane can be squeezed into diamonds in that atmosphere. But because the pressures are so extreme, we probably won't ever be able to get to see
Oh
this
my
happen.
goodness! So
because
like
we
it
won't
must
be
be
able to get there.
that strong where you can take like methane because obviously it has lots of hydrogen around it. You're able to squeeze it together that you just completely get rid of the hydrogen and it's just squishing carbon together.
Squishing carbon together, get some
is-
diamonds, which is pretty incredible. Okay, so we're on Ollie 0. Sorry, Tiernan 1. Tiernan's in the lead.
Yeah,
All right.
well,
So, question 3. How would your body react if you were suddenly exposed to the vacuum of space?
Wah.
Yeah.
I think I know this one. You would because because of the pressure, your blood would basically boil.
You are so correct. Well done. Well done.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Comebacks on.
So in a vacuum of space, there's no atmospheric pressure, and atmospheric pressure determines the temperatures at which liquids boil and turn to gas. So in space, when there's no atmospheric pressure, the boiling point of liquids decreases, and that means that the liquid water inside our bodies boils. And considering we're made up of 60% water, that's pretty bad for us.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Because we would have had the residual heat from our bodies, and that heat is enough to just boil all of our blood on our outer skin.
Yeah,
That's
it's amazing.
pretty grim.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are 1-1, which is amazing.
Tied 1.
So question 4: what colour is the sunset on Mars?
New.
Yeah, Tiernan.
Is it
This is a hesitation.
blue?
Yes, it is. Well done.
I was going to guess that.
Well done.
I will say that I only know that because I recently went to debunking myths in science.
I thought
event
you were about to
at
say
the
I recently
Royal
went to
Institution.
Mars.
No. And
Recently
that was
popped
one
to
of
Mars.
the things that they talked about. It was very cool.
Brilliant, yeah. So Mars' atmosphere is mainly made up of lots of carbon dioxide and dust, which scatters sunlight differently to on Earth. So during the day in Mars, the sky is red, but at sunset, the sky is blue. So it's switched from Earth, which is really cool.
Sounds so
Very
pretty.
cool.
Yeah. Okay, so Tiernan, you're in the lead, but last question. Sorry, Ollie.
Tie it off.
Yes,
tie it off.
What would happen if you tried to land on Jupiter?
Wah.
Yeah,
You'd get
Ollie?
like squashed into a pancake, wouldn't you? Because the gravity is so strong, you wouldn't be able to land on Jupiter.
New.
What are you going to say, Tiernan?
I would say you're going to sink because it's a gas, right?
I feel like that's a bit of a point for you both because
Ooh.
Tiernan, you're more in line with my actual answer
Ah.
for this. But Ollie, I don't know
Ollie's
if you get
actually right.
squashed. I don't know if you get squashed, but you wouldn't be able to sink. So I'm going to give you both half a point for
Oh,
that.
so you like bob up and down?
No, sorry, you would sink. You wouldn't be
you
able to land, I think is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Oh,
say.
You wouldn't
okay.
even be able to get close enough to it because the gravity's so strong, your spaceship would just be like crushed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So Jupiter is what's known as a gas giant. So it doesn't actually have a surface, so you wouldn't be able to land. It's just swirling liquids and gases, like you said,
Oh
Tiernan.
my goodness.
And if you tried to fly through, the extreme temperature and pressure inside the planet would crush, melt, and vaporize the
And
spacecraft,
You
according
would
to
get
NASA.
Turned into
Which
diamonds.
I think you both basically got
Yeah.
that right.
I'll take
I
that.
think you did.
I'm happy with that completely.
So, I'm afraid though that does mean that we have our winner,
Oh my goodness.
which is, do you want to do your buzz?
new.
Yeah, Tiernan. Congrats.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thanks so much, guys, for having me on. That was really fun.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, that was good. I think hopefully we'll have maybe we'll do a little quiz each week. And
That'd be
can
great.
fun.
I'd love that. So fun.
Our next song, I wanted to have a little segment each week where we play some new music. So our next song is from an artist from London called Concook, and it's called Deja Vu. It came out a couple of days ago.
The devil in the details still don't show. The devil in the details still don't show. No, there's details you won't disclose. You've been previously predisposed. Lose my hold, but I can't let go. Still not slept, I've been up since 6. That's why the mood might dip. I've been sinking drinks, I've been drinking sips. I've been facing feelings, badly equipped. I've been up late, yeah, up late too. It's the same place. It's deja vu, it's the same old feeling. Every day it's again and again, but it's nothing new. I've been window staring, I hate this view. Mind wipe, I got nothing to do, nothing to pursue, nothing to choose. I got nothing to prove, so nothing to lose. See the nighttime fall off away too soon. Need my boys, then I need you too. Need an early night, but I need my zoo. I've been working hard, working through. Not making peace, I'm making do. Work enough till the dream come true. Speak my truth when the lights subdue. Me, you, different hue. Promise I'm fine, I don't wanna fight. Just want you to stay by my side. Stay here tonight, stay till it's light. Plane fly away, let's vacation for life. I sever the tide. Whatever I do, I can't get it right. These days, I don't ever confide. Just wait and let it subside. I just wait.
So that was Deja Vu from Con Cook. It came out, I think, on Friday.
That was a very nice song.
Yeah,
I really
so
enjoyed that.
If you like the music, check him out on Spotify. He's a friend of mine. I've got to plug that. So we're going to be talking now, I think, about a film that we went and saw a couple of days, well, about last week, didn't we?
Yeah, it was last week or so. It was a nice little classic sci-fi. I guess, would you call it a horror?
Yeah, I would say sci-fi horror.
Sci-fi horror. Yeah, it was Alien Romulus.
Yes, the latest installment in the Alien franchise, which I think it's fair to say has been flagging in recent years.
Yeah, there's definitely been a couple of hits.
And a couple of misses. But I would say this is a return to form, in my opinion.
That's fair.
But we were going to talk a little bit about what we thought of the film and some of the science that's in the film.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll start off just as like a bare bones review. Ollie, what did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was like a perfect homage to the first two films, which I think are the best two films in the franchise. Yes, had all the sort of like the psychological thriller kind of thrillery horror-y aspects from the first one with sort of more of the action of the second one.
Yes.
And so yeah, I thought even though it didn't really feel very original, like it was very much like if you've seen the first two movies, you could probably predict what was going to happen, but it still had fun with it and it still was a really enjoyable film.
No, I agree. I haven't seen, I think, I can't remember which film it was. I think we had a brief discussion about this. I saw the one that involved the researchers going into a cave with eggs.
Yeah, I mean that's, to be fair, that's a lot of them. But I think
a lot of them.
It was the most recent ones before this were Prometheus and then Alien Covenant, and which kind of were like prequels.
Yes,
I think, and they sort of tried to establish.
It's whatever the precursor society.
Yeah, some kind of weird backstory with some like the idea that it was some divine beings that created this perfect.
Yeah.
This perfect creature, and that is the sort of the
I definitely
xenomorphs.
see what you mean by the misses.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people like them, but they didn't do it for me. So I think the main science bugbear for me in the Alien movies, I know obviously they're movies and they don't have to be science accurate.
No,
but I think
I mean, as we've seen earlier,
exactly,
it's good when they are,
and it can be done really well. One of the, if you haven't seen the original Alien movie or actually any of the Alien movies, one of the sort of the recurring
tropes,
and it became, I think it's become a trope in the genre, is blasting things out of the airlock.
Yes, very much so. And
Tiernan, you're going to tell us a little bit why that doesn't work.
Yeah, so basically how we see in movies, whenever someone gets blasted out of the airlock, it usually ends up being some sort of evil space captain. They're in the airlock, they're slamming on the windows, and they press the red button, doors fling open, and then evil space captain gets launched out into the depths of space to freeze to death. Now, there's a couple of things that don't quite sit well with a science perspective on this. The first is being that the idea that an airlock, as soon as you open it and creating this sort of vacuum to get launched out of an airlock and directed so far away, it doesn't quite work like that. The pressure that equalizes, it doesn't quite launch you per se, and as well as that, it also doesn't get so cold that you start to freeze. That's kind of what Sophie was talking about. That's obviously that's not what would happen to your body, but also it's I think the main thing is the fact that there actually isn't, if you had like an airlock like you often see in sci-fi where it's a small confined space and then you were to open the door, there's not enough air particles in that to actually blast you out, and if you were, it wouldn't generate enough force to actually like propel you out. For example, you were open to an entire space station that was full of air and oxygen,
and you were right in front of the door,
and the door was maybe the size of a watermelon, then yes, there would probably be a lot more pressure,
and you might get sucked out.
But apart from that, it's not necessarily going to work that way.
There's a TV show called The Expanse.
I've
not watched it, but apparently in this show, when they blast people out the airlock, rather than they just open the airlock and then the ship drives off, so they like, fire the thrusters, and then the people sort of like just suffocate.
Oh, I see. So they just sort of, they open it so that they don't have oxygen, and then they kind of, obviously you're not connected to the whatever localized gravity that would have. So
that obviously is a recurring theme in the Alien movies of blasting things out of the airlock. It reappears in this film
Yes.
towards the end. We won't spoil it.
That's the main gripe. But there were a couple of things that were quite good. And just to quickly sort of wrap it up, one of them was the idea of cryogenic freezing and the idea of lowering temperature down so that it can maintain like sort of, I guess, hibernation for a long period of time. There's some founding basis for that. I mean, NASA has come up with the idea of lowering a body's temperature down to 35 degrees so that your body enters basically a hibernation.
Yeah.
So that's a genuine technology, and you can stay in that stasis for like, I think 2 weeks that they do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no.
So they do get some things right.
No, they do. I mean,
Well,
overall...
kind of.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it is a sci film, but it was, in my opinion, very good.
Anyway, so that is all we've got time for on our show today. I hope you've enjoyed our little journey into outer space. I've been Ollie.
And I've been Tiernan.
And you've been listening to iScience Radio.
Thank you very much.